Could time and distance really erase the bond between a mother and her child? Megan Thompson had not seen her son, Aiden, in 5 long years. Every morning, she woke with the ache of absence pressing against her chest. She lived in Maplewood, a small, peaceful town in the U.S., where neighbors waved and children played in the streets. Life seemed ordinary from the outside, but Megan's heart carried a quiet storm of grief and longing. She remembered the day Aiden left for his father's custody, 5 years ago, a courtroom, a final glance, and the life she knew crumbling in an instant. Has he forgotten me? She asked herself as she poured coffee into her mug. The thought was unbearable. Megan had tried everything to stay in touch: phone calls, letters, small gifts. Some were returned with brief, polite responses, others ignored entirely. The silence had been heavy, suffocating, making her feel invisible in her son's life. She spent hours walking through their old neighborhood, revisiting parks where Aiden had laughed, where his small hand had held hers tightly while learning to ride a bike. She saw mothers and sons together, and each joyful scene pierced her heart like a knife. She longed to hug him, to hear him laugh, to know he remembered her. One rainy afternoon, Megan returned home after a long day of work at the local bookstore. The streets glistened, empty except for a few scattered umbrellas. She opened her front door, expecting the usual quiet. Instead, a small envelope lay on her porch, carefully placed as if waiting for her. Her hands shook. The handwriting on the envelope looked familiar, careful, deliberate, almost like a child trying to perfect every letter. Could it really be from him? She whispered. With trembling fingers, she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, delicate and folded neatly. Megan's eyes scanned the first line: Mom, I've missed you. Her breath caught. Tears blurred her vision as she read the words that poured out like a river of emotion. Aiden's words were heartfelt, honest, filled with the longing and regret of a child who had felt abandoned but had never stopped loving her. He wrote about school, about missing the small moments with her, about wishing she had been there. He explained that he had been scared to reach out, scared that she might be angry or that she wouldn't want to see him, and Megan clutched the letter to her chest, sobbing silently. She felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief that he had not forgotten her, and heartbreak that he had carried the weight of separation alone for so long. She whispered to herself, he still remembers me, but why did it take so long to reach me? The sound of a key turning in the door startled her. Megan looked up and froze. Standing there, hesitantly at the gate, was a familiar small figure: Aiden. Older now, taller, his shoulders broader, but the same green eyes that had always belonged to her. He clutched a small envelope in his hand, like a lifeline between them. Has he truly come back? Megan thought, heart pounding. She wanted to run to him, to hold him close, but she hesitated. The years apart had created invisible walls around both of them, walls built of fear, confusion, and unspoken pain. Aiden took a careful step forward, eyes locked on hers. Mom, his voice was quiet, tentative, but it carried all the weight of longing she had felt for years. He handed her the envelope. Megan's hands shook as she took it, unsure whether to open it now or wait. Her heart raced with 1,000 emotions: joy, fear, hope, and uncertainty. Opening the envelope, Megan found more than words. There were small sketches he had drawn, pictures of her smiling, scenes from vacations they had shared, even little stick figure memories from when he was very young. The sketches were simple but full of emotion, each line telling her that he had never truly forgotten her. He had preserved memories of her in his heart, even if he had not been able to say them aloud until now. Her chest ached as tears streamed down her face. She whispered, I thought I had lost him forever, but he's still here. He still loves me. Megan tried to speak, to tell him how much she had missed him, how sorry she was for not being able to be there, how much she had prayed for him every day. But before words could form, Aiden's expression shifted. There was hesitation in his eyes, something unsaid, a weight he had carried silently. There's something more, she realized immediately. Aiden fidgeted, shifting the envelope in his hands. Mom, there's something I've been keeping from you, he said slowly. His voice trembled slightly, a mix of fear and determination. Megan's stomach twisted. What could it be? Had he been hiding a secret, a worry, something that would change everything? Her heart raced, pounding against her ribs as she waited. The years of absence, the unanswered letters, the lonely nights, they had all led to this moment. And now, she realized, the reunion was only the beginning. There were truths to uncover, emotions to face, and perhaps even forgiveness to offer. I need to know everything, she thought. No more waiting. No more secrets. Aiden took a deep breath, looking her directly in the eyes. It's about something I saw, something at Dad's house. Something I didn't want you to know because I didn't want to hurt you. Megan felt her pulse jump. Her mind raced. What could it be? Was it something that would change her understanding of his father? Or was it something personal, something about Aiden's own experience these years apart? She had waited so long to hold him, to reconnect, and now, the reunion was tangled with mystery and unease. She reached for his hands, holding them gently. Whatever it is, we'll face it together, she whispered. The words felt real, grounding her in the moment. But her heart also knew, this was just the first layer of a story that had been 5 years in the making. Aiden nodded, still clutching the envelope, eyes glistening with emotion. I'm ready to tell you, but you have to promise you'll listen, all of it. Megan swallowed, feeling a lump in her throat. I promise. And just as she opened her mouth to begin, she heard the soft creak of the front gate behind them. A shadow moved in the evening light, someone approaching the porch. Megan froze, Aiden stiffened, and the weight of the moment hit her. Their reunion, long awaited and fragile, was about to become even more complicated. What if the boy you longed for has lived through a world of fears and secrets you never imagined? Megan's heart raced as she watched the shadow at the gate step closer. It wasn't a stranger, it was Mrs. Carter, Aiden's neighbor, someone who had quietly observed the boy over the past few years. She carried herself with a mix of caution and urgency. Megan's mind spun with questions. Why is she here now? Has something happened to him? Mrs. Carter stopped near the porch, her eyes locking on Aiden. I'm sorry to interrupt, Megan, she said gently. But I think it's time you knew some things about the past few years. Things Aiden can't explain yet. Megan felt a lump in her throat. The tension between her and Aiden thickened. She wanted to shield him from more pain, yet she also knew they couldn't rebuild their bond without understanding the years that had separated them. Could there really be more he hasn't told me? Megan wondered, gripping the letter tightly in her hand. Aiden shifted uncomfortably. His fingers fidgeted with the envelope he had brought. Megan realized he had more to share than words could capture. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft but deliberate. Mom. I've been carrying a lot alone. I didn't want to worry you, or make you feel guilty. But there are things that happened at Dad's house. Things I didn't understand. Megan's chest tightened. She had expected silence, distance, maybe even resentment. But not this. Not the raw honesty spilling from his lips. He's grown up so much in these 5 years, she thought, noticing the strength and vulnerability in his voice at the same time. Mrs. Carter stepped closer. He's seen things that were hard, Megan. You need to know that while you were away, Aiden faced challenges no child should endure. He was brave, but he's been carrying fear and confusion quietly. He needs your guidance, your love, and reassurance now more than ever. Megan knelt beside Aiden, taking his hands gently. I'm here now, Aiden. You don't have to carry it alone anymore. He nodded but hesitated. There's one more letter, he said, reaching into his backpack and handing her a small, folded note. His hands trembled slightly. Megan could feel the weight of the years, the worry and secrecy pressed into the tiny paper. What is this? Another message from him? Or something bigger? Megan wondered, her pulse quickening. She opened it carefully. Inside were more sketches, notes, and short passages. Each page revealed not only Aiden's memories of her but also fragments of the life he had endured with his father. He had witnessed arguments, loneliness, and moments of neglect he hadn't known how to explain. Yet through it all, he had remembered her, had preserved memories of love, hope, and connection. Megan felt her chest ache. Her son had been carrying the weight of absence silently, struggling to understand a world without her. Tears blurred her vision as she read his words aloud, hoping he could hear the affection she felt, even through the years of separation. "How could I have been away when he needed me most?" she whispered, clutching his hands. Aiden's eyes glistened, a mix of fear and relief. "I wanted to tell you everything, Mom. I didn't know if you'd come back for me. I didn't know if you'd even care." Megan shook her head, tears streaming. "I've always cared, Aiden. Every single day. And I'm here now. No more distance. No more secrets between us." But just as the relief began to wash over them, the evening air was broken by a sudden knock at the door. Both Megan and Aiden froze. Who could it be now? Megan thought, her pulse racing. The timing was uncanny. Every step forward seemed to unlock another door, revealing mysteries she hadn't anticipated. Megan carefully opened the door to find a courier holding a small envelope with no return address. She took it hesitantly, glancing at Aiden. He looked both curious and apprehensive. "Another letter?" Megan murmured. She opened it, and her eyes widened. Inside was a note written in Aiden's father's handwriting, a confession of sorts, acknowledging neglect and mistakes during the years he had lived apart from Megan and Aiden. There were apologies, explanations, and fragments of truths that Aiden had hinted at but could not fully express. Megan's heart sank. She had hoped for closure, for simplicity, but now the past was tangling itself with the present in ways she hadn't anticipated. She looked at Aiden, realizing he had been silently holding pieces of this puzzle for years. How much more has he carried alone? Megan wondered, her voice barely audible. Aiden swallowed hard. "Mom. I wanted to protect you. I didn't want you to be upset or to feel guilty. But I think you should know the truth now. About everything." Megan took a deep breath, steadying herself. She had imagined this moment countless times, but living it was different. The pain, the fear, the love, all converged in the small living room, in the soft evening light. "We've come this far, but the journey isn't over," she thought, realizing that their reunion was just the beginning. Understanding the years apart, the hidden emotions, and the unspoken fears would take time. And there was still more to uncover, more letters, more secrets, more truths that could either bring them closer or threaten to pull them apart again. Aiden's hands were small but steady in hers. He looked up, determination in his eyes. "I'm ready to tell you everything, Mom. But it's going to be hard. And I don't know if you're ready for it." Megan squeezed his hands gently. "I'm ready, Aiden. For all of it. No matter what comes next, we'll face it together." A sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, as if echoing the tension in the room. Outside, shadows danced across the porch, and the weight of what was to come pressed down on them. The fragile peace they had begun to build was only the first step in a journey filled with revelations, healing, and perhaps even forgiveness. What if a single revelation could change everything you thought you knew about your child's life? Megan Thompson's hands trembled as she held the envelope Aiden had given her earlier. Her heart raced. She had spent 5 years imagining what their reunion would be like, dreaming of smiles, hugs, and conversations filled with laughter, but reality had proven far more complex. Aiden was no longer the little boy she remembered. He was a young adolescent who had carried pain silently, grown strong and cautious from experiences she hadn't known about. "How much has he endured without me?" Megan wondered, swallowing hard. She could see the mix of fear and hope in his green eyes. Aiden finally spoke, his voice low but steady. "Mom, there's something else about Dad. About what I went through. I didn't tell you before because I didn't want to make things worse." Megan's chest tightened. She had anticipated stories of neglect or sadness, but the fear in Aiden's voice hinted at something deeper, something he had carried alone for far too long. She reached out, gently taking his hand. It's okay, Aiden. You can tell me everything. I'm here for you. Could he forgive me for not being there, she thought. The question lingered in her mind like a whisper. Aiden took a deep breath and handed her a small notebook, worn at the edges. Inside were detailed accounts of the difficult moments he had faced at his father's house, being ignored when he needed help, feeling trapped in arguments he couldn't control, witnessing harsh words that made him afraid to speak up. Each page revealed a child's perspective, raw and honest, full of confusion and longing for his mother's comfort. Megan's heart ached. She hadn't realized the depth of his loneliness. Tears streamed down her face as she read his words aloud. She saw not only his pain but also his resilience. He had endured years of fear and still reached out to her, still trusted her with his feelings. He's braver than I ever imagined, she whispered. Aiden watched her quietly, shifting uncomfortably on the sofa. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he added, "There's one more thing, something I saw that I think you need to know." Megan's stomach clenched. She had suspected there were more secrets, more pieces of the puzzle she had yet to understand. What could it be, she wondered, bracing herself. Aiden's hands shook slightly as he opened a folder filled with photographs and notes. Megan leaned over, scanning the contents. The images revealed more about his father's new life, the choices he had made, the people he allowed around Aiden, the neglect that had sometimes been subtle but impactful. It was not malicious in the way she had feared, but it had left deep marks on her son's heart. Megan's chest tightened. She had longed to protect him, but life had kept her away. Now, seeing the evidence of what he had endured, she realized the gravity of those years. How did he manage to stay so strong all this time, she thought. Aiden's eyes filled with tears. I tried to be strong, Mom. I didn't want to worry you. But it was hard. I felt like I had to survive on my own. Megan pulled him into a gentle embrace. The warmth of his small frame against hers, even after years, reminded her that their bond had never truly broken. It had been strained, yes, but the roots were still alive, still holding them together. We'll rebuild, she whispered to herself, feeling a flicker of hope, just as they began to feel the fragile piece of reunion. A sudden knock at the door startled them both. Megan's pulse quickened. Who could it be now? Every moment of their reunion seemed layered with surprises, each one demanding courage and understanding. She opened the door to find a delivery man with a package. Megan signed quickly and took it inside, noticing the envelope attached. No return address, no name, just her own handwriting written in a different hand. She felt a pang of curiosity mixed with anxiety. Inside the package were additional photographs and letters. The images depicted scenes from Aiden's father's house that Aiden had been too scared to describe fully, arguments that had frightened him, moments when he had been isolated, and instances of emotional distance. The letters explained events that had been confusing to a young boy, detailing choices that had affected his life in ways Megan had never known. Megan's heart ached for her son. All these years, all this pain, and he still trusts me, she thought. Aiden spoke softly. Mom. I wanted to hide it from you, but I knew I couldn't. I needed you to understand why I've been distant, why I've been cautious. Everything I've done these past years, it was to survive. Megan held his hands tightly, eyes glistening. You don't have to survive alone anymore. You can let me in now. No more secrets. No more hiding. For a moment, they sat in silence, letting the emotions of the past years wash over them. The love was still there, unbroken, but now tempered by the reality of what Aiden had faced. It was a complex bond, fragile yet strong, filled with memories of absence and longing, but also hope and trust. We can face this together, Megan whispered to herself. She realized that their journey was not just about reconnecting, it was about healing, understanding, and facing the truths of the past with courage. But as she looked at Aiden, she noticed a small folded note sticking out of the folder he had given her. A note she hadn't seen before. He looked at her nervously. There's one more letter, Mom, one more thing you should see. I don't know if you're ready. Megan's heart skipped a beat. Another revelation? Just when she thought she understood the full story, another secret had emerged. Her hands shook slightly as she reached for the note. The weight of the past years, combined with the uncertainty of what it contained, made her chest ache with anticipation and fear. Could there be one final truth that changes everything? Megan thought, bracing herself. Aiden nodded, eyes full of emotion. I think it will explain a lot. About why I've been the way I am, and why I've needed you so much. Please, Mom, read it. Megan took a deep breath and unfolded the note. Her hands trembled as she prepared herself for whatever revelation awaited her. The fragile piece of their reunion hung in the balance, ready to be tested by this final piece of truth. Is it possible to mend a heart that has been broken by absence, secrets, and fear? Megan Thompson sat at the kitchen table, the final note from Aiden unfolded before her. The room was quiet, sunlight streaming softly through the curtains, yet the air felt heavy with anticipation. She could feel the weight of the past 5 years pressing down on her chest. She had learned about his struggles, read his heartfelt letters, and understood the pain he had endured silently. But this last note, it seemed to promise even more truths, more pieces of the story they were only now beginning to understand. Could this be the moment that finally explains everything? Megan wondered, glancing at Aiden. Aiden, sitting beside her, fiddled with his hands nervously. His eyes darted toward the envelope, then back at his mother. Mom. I didn't know how to give this to you before. I was scared you'd be upset, or that it would change how you see me, he admitted softly. Megan reached over, taking his hands in hers. Aiden, you don't need to be afraid. Nothing you've done has made me love you any less. Whatever is in there, we'll face it together. The note contained memories, reflections, and explanations Aiden had carefully kept to himself. He described moments of confusion, fear, and isolation at his father's house. He wrote about feeling lost when decisions were made without him, moments when he needed guidance but didn't know how to ask, and times when he longed for his mother's comforting presence. Each word was filled with the voice of a child who had grown strong but carried deep scars. Megan's chest tightened. She realized just how much her absence, though unavoidable, had impacted him. Tears blurred her vision as she read his words aloud, each sentence unraveling years of worry, guilt, and longing. Yet beneath the pain, there was love, pure, resilient, and unwavering. He's still the same boy I raised, just stronger and wiser, Megan thought. Her heart ached, yet it also swelled with pride. Aiden looked up, eyes glistening. Mom. I kept this from you because I didn't want to hurt you. But I wanted you to understand me. I wanted you to know why I've been cautious, why I've been so distant at times. Megan pulled him into a gentle hug. The warmth of his body, the familiarity of his scent, and the comfort of his presence washed over her. You don't have to explain anymore, Aiden. I understand now. And I promise, I will always be here. For a moment, silence enveloped them, soft and healing. The tension of the past years, the unspoken fears, and the distance all seemed to melt into the room. Megan could feel a shift in their relationship, something fragile, yet beautiful, beginning to bloom. Could we truly start fresh after all this, she wondered. Just then, a faint knock at the door interrupted their quiet. Megan's heart skipped a beat. She opened it to find a familiar face, Mrs. Carter, Aiden's longtime neighbor, standing with a gentle smile. In her hand was a small envelope. I thought you might want to see this, she said softly before leaving. Megan opened the envelope to discover photographs and notes she hadn't seen before, moments from Aiden's life that revealed small victories, friendships he had built, and ways he had coped with challenges. She realized these were reminders of his resilience, evidence of a boy who had endured so much but never lost hope. Aiden leaned close. I wanted you to see this too. It's part of my story, Mom. Everything I've been through, and how I've grown. Megan smiled, her eyes brimming with tears. You've grown into such a strong, thoughtful young man. And I'll be here every step of the way, to help you through anything. The evening stretched quietly, filled with conversation, shared memories, and laughter that felt long overdue. Megan listened as Aiden spoke about school, friendships, and the dreams he had for the future. Each word, each story, reminded her that the boy she thought she had lost was still there, waiting for love and guidance. But just as they began to settle into this fragile new rhythm, Megan noticed Aiden holding another small envelope, one he had kept hidden. His fingers shook slightly. "There's one last letter," he whispered. "I didn't want to give it to you until now. It's about my dad and about me." Megan felt her heart race. Could there be more pain? Or perhaps a revelation that would help them fully understand the years of separation? She nodded slowly. "We'll face it together, Aiden. Whatever it says, we'll handle it." With trembling hands, Aiden handed her the note. Megan unfolded it carefully. Inside, he had written about his feelings toward his father, the anger, the confusion, the fear, but also the compassion he had begun to feel. He acknowledged mistakes, misunderstandings, and moments of regret, but also emphasized his desire to move forward, to embrace hope, and to rebuild trust with the people who truly loved him. Megan felt a wave of relief and pride. Her son was not only surviving, he was learning forgiveness and understanding, even when life had been unfair. She realized that their journey was not about erasing the past, but about embracing it, learning from it, and using it to strengthen their bond. "We can heal," Megan whispered, holding Aiden close. "We will heal, together." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across their small town, Megan felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. The past was still there, with its scars and memories, but the present offered love, hope, and the chance to build something new. Aiden looked up at her, a small, tentative smile on his face. "Mom, thank you. For being here. For listening. For never giving up on me." Megan's heart swelled. "I'll never give up on you, Aiden. Never." They sat together, letting the quiet wrap around them like a warm blanket. The letters, the secrets, and the struggles had brought them to this moment, raw, emotional, and beautiful. It was not the end of their story, but a new beginning filled with love, trust, and the promise of a brighter future. Yet, just as Megan thought the journey had reached a peaceful pause, Aiden's eyes flicked toward the window. There, in the distance, a familiar figure watched quietly, holding something in their hands, a photograph, a message, a clue to another layer of their story yet to unfold.